Hi everyone, welcome to Talk and Chalk. I'm Beck. Today we're talking about sensory toys, which is why I've got my fidget spinner here. I'm not good, I don't do tricks. Before we get into it though, let's do the introductions. If you don't know me, I'm an assistant principal in Southwest Sydney and I use this channel just to share my tips and bits of advice with everyone, or anyone that wants to hear it pretty much. I'm in a primary setting, but I've worked in a central school, so I try and make sure that these videos that I do can possibly apply from anywhere to early childhood right through to secondary school. And I welcome anyone who's brand new to the channel. Those of you who have been with me from the beginning, thank you so much for your continued support. I love all the messages that people have been sending me, and I really do like hearing that people are putting these bits of advice into practice and finding them useful. So that's great. If you haven't clicked to subscribe, buttons are below, as well as my links to Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and my brand new Instagram as well. Instagram is the bomb at the moment. I'm loving it. But let's get into it. So I wanted to talk about sensory toys because I think there's a lot of lack of understanding about the point of them, about how to best use them. And since we're getting very close to the beginning of term one, I know that there's teachers getting things like fidget bags and boxes and things like that prepared for students that they're getting. So I think it's really, really good that we just have that good understanding about their purpose, why they're used, how they should be used, and really that control that you have over them in the classroom. So when we're talking about senses, we've pretty much come to the greater understanding now that we have more than 5 senses. So I've made a few notes, obviously, as I always do when I do these videos. So we have sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. Those are our basic 5, and that's generally what we teach our kids at school when they're learning about the senses that we have. But neurologists now identify up to 9. Some even identify up to 21 different senses. So I've got them saved. I've got some links saved. I'm not going to read out the whole research or articles or anything like that, but what I will do is I will link them in the description below. And if they don't work, just let me know. But they're just links to websites. So when we're talking about, sorry, I'm just getting into the wrong tab. Let's try this again. Here we go. So the sense of touch that we talk about, we talk about it as one sense, but really inside it, there are different senses inside the touch sense. So sense of pressure, sense of heat, sense of pain. And then when we get into other senses, it's called the interoceptive senses, sense of balance, so the sense of the body's alignment, the sense of the organic sense, which is like your hunger and your thirst. Think we say sense of direction, there's so many different things that go into it. And when it comes into things like, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, proprioception, which is the brain's knowledge of relative positions of body parts. So that's when they're doing the test like that for people that they think might be inebriated, or the walking along the line test. That's the sense that they're talking about. So when we're talking about our kids' sensory needs, there's so much more that's going on than just taste, hearing, sight, smell, but all of those things though can have heightened senses, and we have kids with special needs as well where they need additional input or output depending on what their various needs are. So if you've seen my other videos, you know that my son has autism spectrum disorder, so we have different things that we need to do to help cater for his different senses. Something that might not be annoying or loud to me could be extremely painful for him to hear and distracting to the point where he'll have no idea what else is going on around him. When he's very, very excited, he gets it out by flapping and jumping. When he's very, very nervous, he needs to rock back and forth to get it out. So there's things like that are going to prevent him from being able to concentrate in the classroom, especially when there's a lot of stimulation going on. So when we're talking about those sensory needs, and again, I've got another article that I will link here for you, so I'm just flipping back to it now, and this is from an occupational therapy background. We're talking about fidget toys. Now, I personally don't like to call them toys because they're a resource. If you're using it as a game, then it's a toy. When you're using it for a particular purpose, it's a resource, and I think we really need to make sure we use that language in the classroom so that kids don't see other kids using it and think, well, they get to play. Why don't I get to play? I like to play. I can play and concentrate and be able to do that. So, sorry, I'm just flipping back to my article again because it's got really good language. And like I said, I'm not going to give you whole thing. Just going to talk about examples that are in there. So the concept of fidget toys, where children are seeking things to touch and feel to provide the just right amount of sensory input to calm their nervous system. So the fidget toys are used as that tool to do that. So I've got a couple here. So the biggest one we would have seen last year was the fidget spinner. Now, when these first came out, they were really quiet, but obviously they were the more expensive ones. Now you get the cheaper ones, I don't know if you can hear it, that make the noises. And then there were ones that light up and have all different patterns and everything on it, which really are more of a distraction. And I got to the point where I had the conversation with my kids. I'm playing with it now. Look at that. I'm getting distracted. I had the conversation with my kids about the point of the fidget spinner being to enable you to concentrate. The point of my glasses is to enable me to be able to read properly. I don't need my glasses all the time. If I take them off, I can still see. It's not a problem. Not everything is very, very blurry. But if I don't wear them, then my brain has to work extra hard to make sure that I don't get a headache or that I'm processing everything properly. I need them there. Otherwise, I'm going to end up causing damage by not wearing them. Something else will happen. So the point of the fidget spinner is to enable you to do your best learning, not to sit there and play and actually become distracted. So provided they're used that way, then it's the right tool, it's the right resource. So when you have them in the classroom, you need to make sure that you have rules established for their use. But before I get into the other rules that I had, I'm just going to show you some of them. So I just showed you the fidget spinner, that's one. The other one that's come around at the moment, I've got two because my kids have them. And yes, my kids are at the moment using them as toys. So even though my son does have those sensory needs, we haven't found the need for this in the classroom. I think this would be a distraction for him in the classroom, actually. So, I mean, it's got different bits around the side. And this one here's got little clicky buttons, and there's that one's a soft one. That one makes a noise. That one makes a noise. That one's a soft one. That one's a clicky one. This here spirals around, and it feels like it's got grooves, like it's a cog that's turning around. This one feels like a joystick, like on a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, the round bit there. That's like a light switch, so you can hear it. That would be a bit distracting. This is like a holidays, what's the word? The lock. Like a chain lock, like a bike chain lock. There we go. Like on a suitcase. Makes me think of my dad's suitcase when he was working around that way, and it clicks. And then the ball kind of rolls around like the ball that you used to get on a mouse on a computer. Haha, the young ones. Do you remember those? Probably never had them. So anyway, wow, I just made myself feel old. Okay, anyway, that's the fidget cube. So, okay, oh, and this one here, this bit's interesting because you just put your finger in it to feel it. Doesn't make any noise, doesn't move or anything. It's just a groove there. So that's that one. Other things that we get, the squishy ball. I like these. I like these for fine motor because it strengthens their fingers, makes no noise, and ideally this is the kind of thing that most people aren't going to get too jealous about because it's a ball, it's a soft squishy ball. You can get funny ones that have faces and things on them as well, and generally you get these for about $2 from any junk shop. The fidget spinners I found for $1, cheap ones though, and the fidget cubes at the moment run about $5 or $6 depending on where you get them from. Some are a bit more expensive. If you're paying $10 or more for any of these things, you're overpaying. So there's that one. One of my lovely colleagues gave me these for my son to see if he would like them. These are sensory balls, and there's the whole pack, and they come with all different textures around them, different colors and textures. And I like these two because you can just run your finger over it and feel. And I kind of find that a little bit calming actually, to run my finger over that. What I don't like is that. It's not a problem at home, but I imagine that would be an issue in the classroom. This one too, it's very spiky. Fits perfectly in the palm of his hand. It's a little bit small in mine, but good for a child's hand. But again, a squeaky noise. But, you know, it's your classroom. You make the rule about not squeaking it. You know, those are things that are labelled sensory toys, resources. You don't have to be that way. If you know your kids and you know what they need, anything could be a resource that you use to fill that gap or get that gap between the sensory input or output. So for my son, when he started school, toy cars. Toy cars were great. Just holding it was enough for him. It was almost like a security blanket in a way. But when he needed that sensory time, you'd find him spinning the wheels or running it over his hand just to get that additional, sensory support that he needed to be able to cope with whatever was going on in the classroom. If this is what he needed to sit still, then the teacher was happy to do that. And he had a wonderful teacher. He's always had wonderful teachers. They're all wonderful. They've all been lovely. Another thing that worked really well for some other kids that I've had are I don't have one at home, but it's the timers that you turn, and it's like water and oil in different colors, and it drops. It goes, up and down in different ways, or sometimes they spin. I like this one though. This is my son's light. Oh, can you see it? It changes color. It's very slow, very calming, changes colors as you go through. And this is something that would be obviously for a child who likes looking at things. If things are very overwhelming in the room and he or she needs something to focus on, because it's nice and slow, it's not too bright. If, like you said, if the light was on, you'd only just slightly see the changes if you were focused on it. And really, I'm looking at the video and it's brighter in front of me than what it is coming up on the video, but it's not overwhelming. And this was $2 at Target, bunch of different letters. These things usually pop up around festive times like Christmas. So we got that one, I think, in November, maybe October, maybe July for Christmas things, because, they come out so early. Okay, but when you use these in the rooms, obviously rules need to go with it, as they would with any resource that you have in the classroom. If you've got cards, counters, rulers, pencils, there should be an expectation on how those resources are used, and you need to make sure that you deliver that expectation to the kids. And these resources, if you're just showing the kid that uses it the expectation, then you're not working as a team and understanding everyone has different needs in the class. Those other kids in the class aren't necessarily going to understand those child's needs. We really need to be building a good level of understanding of each other's needs. Understanding about why I've got glasses, about why someone else might have braces, about why someone else might be in a wheelchair. Building that level of understanding in our kids at an early age means they are more accepting. It means that they're more resilient themselves. And it means that generally when things possibly happen to them or the people around them later in life, they will have better coping skills to deal with those situations and to think positively about those situations if they happen later in life. So the rules that I have, like I said, I don't call them toys, I call them resources. They happen at set times. You are not doing this all day long. No, we need to learn to cope in those situations, and we can't have security blankets with us all the time. I like working with music. I can't have music on all the time though. It's just not how life works. We want our kids to be resilient. We will support them when they need it. Absolutely. If you absolutely need this right now, and if you absolutely need this for the whole lesson, the whole session, I'm going to let you have that for today. But tomorrow we're going to try it just for a little bit of that session and see how we go. And we'll talk about those feelings and at what point did you feel like you really needed it back. And it is always up to the teacher to determine whether or not you're doing fine without it. And really, we need to know our kids well to do that. If you are feeling really, really, really apprehensive about that child being able to cope without it, let it stretch a bit longer if you need to. That's fine. We've got them all year long to build up those skills, and then the next teacher has them all year long as well. It's a lifetime thing. Sometimes they'll go back. When kids are sick, they always revert. When something bad is going on for them, they'll revert, and we need to be prepared for that. So be prepared for those normal learning curves that happen, and they'll plateau sometimes. We be prepared for that. Sometimes we just go, it's an off day, they needed a bit more. No biggie. And that they're not for everyone. Oh my gosh. The amount of kids that waddled in with fidget spinners and fidget cubes and everything. Oh, because I need it to help me concentrate. Do you know what? You've had no trouble concentrating for the last 3 years of learning. Why do you suddenly need it now? And that's when they become a toy. So you need to have that discussion with the class as well. And I told them anytime, if I knew they didn't need it, as long as they were doing their best learning possible and not distracting others, then it was fine by me. I didn't care. The other thing that you could use, which are sensory resources that aren't really meant to be used though A lot of other occupational therapy tools such as weighted blankets, the weighted snakes, the wobble boards, different cushions, things like that. So I do have one of the weighted resources. This is my son's, and this is called Patrick. You may have seen him. See, where's his name? Patrick. And he is weighted, I'm trying to remember how much is in here now. I think it's 1 kilo. Possibly 1 kilo each side. I can't remember. But they're just like sandbags that go in here. But you can get them as a snake as well. So this is purposely designed to sit around the shoulder. And I'm just realizing now how fuzzy my hair is at the moment. It's a bit stuffy and hot. So he's meant to sit around the shoulders. And the rule obviously is that when he's sitting around your shoulders, you're not playing with him. You're not, playing with his ears or talking to him or anything like that. He's there to help you concentrate. He's there to help you learn. And usually I say when he's on you, he's asleep. And I do the same for the snake. So if you've ever seen the snake, if you get it from those companies, I think Modern Teaching Aids sells them. They're usually green and yellow, and it's long, like the ye old door snake that used to put under the doors to stop a draft. And again, weighted with the sand. And the snake curls up in the lap, or it can go over the shoulders, or it can be wrapped around the waist. And they're good because of their versatility, obviously, but their ability to be able to use sitting on the floor, sitting on a low chair, sitting at a table. And I would say when the snake is in your lap, the snake is asleep, and you have to make sure he stays asleep. And you see the kids just visibly calm from that weight. It's amazing. They can run a bit expensive, but you know what? They're worth it. They're so worth it. I'm sure that came from Modern Teaching Aids, that one. And we have one at home and one at school. And they're really good too because I can pick up on the signs that say, he's getting a bit too anxious. I think he needs to calm down. Okay, you're playing with your Lego at the moment. Let's put Patrick on for a little while. Patrick wants a cuddle. So let's have a cuddle with Patrick. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. But if you've got any other sensory toys that you think are really beneficial, I would love to hear them. Pop them in the comments below. Send me a message on Twitter or Facebook because I'm always on the eye out for brand new things. If you find you've got some specific rules that you use in the classroom that work well, pop those in the comments below because if we've got any other people watching that want to see them, they can check the comments below as well. Keep your eye out for more of the Back to School series videos. If you haven't seen any of them, just go back and check in the videos, and if you haven't subscribed, I'll put my link down the bottom here so you can hover over that and click on subscribe. I'll put another video at the top there that will hopefully benefit you before we go back to school. And if you thought this video was beneficial, I'd love a thumbs up. Feedback is always good. Thanks guys. Bye.